I uncovered a rigid framework that all movies follow, with no exceptions. This video will break down how even Glass Onion adheres to Hollywood's storytelling secrets. We start, as always, with a focus on our protagonist, specifically their personality, their inner conflict, and their situation. Our ensemble cast of Claire, Lionel, Birdie, Peg, Duke, and Whiskey are introduced, as is the cryptic presence of Miles Bron, who ensnares them all into a mystery. Next, we examine where, why, and how our protagonists exist in their world, with a focus on why they don't quite fit in. The ensemble must work together to solve a puzzle box, highlighting their strengths but also their weaknesses. Then a brief event happens, one that's never happened before. It's destined to lead all the characters away from their status quo. The puzzle box is solved, presenting an invitation to a murder mystery party, which leads us to examine the effect of that something new to the status quo, specifically what's different now and what remains the same. A lone wolf of the ensemble solves the puzzle box through brute force, while the final member of our crew, Detective Benoit Blanc, itches for a new case, and everyone assembles, pulled together by the same billionaire hand. We move along to the discovery that things are less than ideal, or else we explore how badly things are. Both scenarios are common. It's revealed that Blanc is the first new party guest in 8 years, while fake Andi presents yet another unexpected twist for the ensemble. Then Lionel drops the gossip about her newfound hatred of them all, and Miles's easygoing demeanor rattles to see Andi, alive. Next, our characters dedicate their effort to a specified goal, and this is always narrower in scope than what the third act will demand. Blanc and fake Andi keep up appearances by staying in character, while Miles touts the communal aspect of his solo success. Then we run through a brief checklist of the main story elements that we can expect during this journey. The eccentricities of the super rich, Blanc's mysterious presence on the island, the dynamic relationship of the disruptors, clues that are flaunted right in front of us, and of course everyone being sus AF. Which brings us to the brief event that launches our characters into the wild jungle of the second act. It's also called the oh shit moment. Birdie helps us understand things are irreparably fractured within the disruptors. Oh shit. We follow our characters as they discover the new rules and expectations of their journey. These are always distinct to the narrative at play. Miles explains the common thread that binds the disruptors together, while fake Andi explains the flip side of their sycophantic loyalty. Then Claire sniffs Helen out, even if she doesn't realize it. Next, our characters showcase their ability to grow and progress, and this is typically an external or physical beat rather than internal or emotional. Peg openly begs Miles not to extort Birdie, giving Blanc crucial info, who also creeps around and finds motive for Duke to kill Miles. Then everyone comes together in momentary peace over the Mona Lisa. Then our characters face legitimate and understandable reasons to deviate from their stated convictions, agendas, or desires. Miles presents himself as a threat to the world, turning his murder into a righteous victory for any spy or superhero. And no one is into playing a murder mystery game anymore. Then Blanc solves the whole thing before anyone can start. We endure the anxiety as our characters face an escalation of problems and complications. Blanc warns Miles of a very real homicidal threat on the island, then turns the conversation to the napkin, knowing the real one was missing. And the disruptors put fake Andi on the spot, without Blanc to play interference. Next, our characters evolve internally or emotionally, and they do this by using elements of the plot or story which they've gathered and learned so far. Fake Andi stays in character as Duke tears down her recently murdered sister, but her real identity is uncovered and relayed to Miles. while the ensemble rally themselves for a weekend without a murder. Then our journey-weary characters come to terms with their ongoing struggles. Moments and elements of the first act are used to gauge their progress. The murder mystery party finally receives a murder, as promised by the Act 1 invitation, and the ensemble begin to gather the clues like they did with the Act 1 puzzle box. They stumble around each other in the dark, like how they fumbled around during their introductions. Then the remaining disruptors assemble, though somber and fewer in number than Act 1, and Blanc's intro plays out again, but this time with more context, which results in a brief event that strikes at our protagonist's core conflict. We meet Helen Brand, twin sister to secretly dead Andi, who we've been following this entire time, and there's no turning back from here. We receive needed answers alongside our characters, which relate to both their external journeys and their internal conflicts. The story restarts, and we discover the real murder mystery has been playing out this whole time, and Blanc pulls Helen into the investigation, challenging her to inhabit the life of her dead sister. Next, our characters complete their narrow scope objective, yet discover that their victory is shallow or altogether meaningless, and must complete a wider scope objective. Helen explains her last-minute studying to really channel her sister, and she explains the backstory of how Miles got them under his control. Then our characters face an existential conflict that wounds their sense of self and identity or their physical journey. Helen fears that Duke and Birdie suspect something before they even land on the island, and Whiskey intercepts her first, forcing Helen to navigate a private conversation without giving away her true identity. Then she finds a place to hide and listen and catches valuable intel. We celebrate with our protagonist in light of an undeniable win, which is always related to the rebirth in some way. Helen's detective work is praised by Blanc, who also discovers her secret weapon, a stiff drink in a stiffer spine. She coaxes out of Claire a time frame for everyone on the day in question, and Blanc fills in the role Lionel played in the whole ordeal. Next, our characters suffer a grand loss, and this is always connected to their newfound inability to quit their journey. They uncover a motive for Birdie, meaning that no one can be ruled out. Then Helen peels off from the group, which will soon get her shot, and the news of Andi's death floods the internet before they were ready. Then we experience a thematic freefall, as the main story elements are ramped up and thrown into upheaval. The final moments of the previous run-through play out from Helen's perspective, and the greatest misdirection of the movie so far is revealed. Celebrity name-dropping comes into play at a crucial moment. Then she and Blanc set up their final play to find the missing napkin, which forces us into a brief event that robs our protagonist of seemingly any hope of success. A drop of hot sauce threatens to break Helen from her act and expose her and Blanc to a 3-time killer. We watch our characters realize that they cannot return to their first act selves, and they turn to face the wider scope objective. We finally catch up to where we left off in the mystery the first time around, while Helen finds the all-important napkin. Blanc unravels the mystery that's been in plain sight all along, and the disruptors grapple with Miles being Duke's murderer. Then finally, the ruse is revealed. Next, our characters use the major swings of the story and their personal journeys to move towards the climax. The details of Andi's murder are finally slid into place, and Blanc deduces the rest of Miles's maneuvers as the mystery unfolds, all the way down to stealing Helen's attempted murder from the very detective in the room. Then Miles takes an idea from Lionel and burns the napkin, and Helen implores the disruptors to turn against Miles in Andi's memory. Then the final confrontation plays out between our protagonist and characters against the antagonistic force. Blanc gives Helen the inspiration and courage to seek her own revenge, who steals a page from Miles's book and begins to break little things, which eventually stirs the rest of the disruptors into the chaos. And Helen finally reaches the line that Miles does not want her to cross. So guess what she has to do? Which culminates in a brief moment where our protagonist finally, and oftentimes metaphorically, overcomes their place in the Act 1 status quo. Helen ignites the hydrogen, and the glass onion explodes, proving her sister right for trying to stop him. We experience the direct aftermath of the climax. This can give our characters a moment to reflect on the situation, or else wind down the action with a coda. Blanc remains calm about the prospect of the multiple fatalities that he just encouraged, and Helen goes after the one thing which no one wants her to burn, as a means to destroy Miles completely. Next, we touch base with additional characters, typically to contrast them against the new status quo. Miles finally comprehends the full scope of his impending ruination, and even the disruptors turn against him, broken of their need for his power. Then we conclude with a tight focus on our protagonist, specifically to contrast them against how we met them at the opening. Helen walks away with her sister avenged, and Blanc carries on again toward his next celebrity ensemble mystery. What do you think his next case will be, and which actors do you hope are in it? Let me know in the comments. And there you have it. Glass Onion fits perfectly into Hollywood's storytelling secret, and it demonstrates that even a repeating loop of a story must adhere to a linear emotional thread. If you enjoyed this breakdown, you should totally check out my Enola Holmes 2 video. Both have an all-star cast with a charismatic detective in the center of the mystery. Check it out. And please, take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk at you next time.